All right, Alpha, can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
So let us start. So in the previous class, I had discussed that the human digestive system, it has two major parts. The first part is the alimentary canal and the second part are the different digestive glands. Now we have seen the different parts of the alimentary canal wherein it begins with the mouth, ends at the anus, right? The whole entire passage we've discussed about. Now, today we're going to discuss the digestive glands. Now, see, the secretions that usually come out of the digestive glands, they are called as the enzymes usually. And they are responsible for the chemical digestion of the food. See, the word digestion, the word breakdown, it is synonymous. Okay? Now, the first digestive glands that we're going to see are the salivary glands. Now, salivary glands, they're present in our mouth and they are responsible for the production of saliva. Now, this saliva, this contains mucus, it contains various enzymes and it contains iron in it. Now, the one that we are actually concerned with are the enzymes that are present or found in the saliva. So, I'll tell you one thing is that as soon as we keep the food in the mouth, then only the process of digestion begins. Why? Because the salivary glands, they release the saliva and the saliva contains the enzyme which is called as salivary amylase. So this salivary amylase is responsible for breaking down the, you can say, the sugar, the complex sugar into simple forms. And this starts to happen in the mouth itself. So 30% of the carbohydrate gets digested in the mouth itself. Now, many a times, there is this question asked, like from where does the process of digestion begin? So you'd say in the mouth only. The process of digestion, it doesn't even have to go to the stomach or the small intestine. It begins from the mouth itself. So salivary gland is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
The second is the gastric gland. Now gastric glands, they're present in the stomach lining, meaning towards the inner walls of the stomach. So the gastric glands, the secretion of the gastric gland, they will be called as the gastric juices or enzymes. Now they are responsible for digesting very, you could say, different varieties that are there in our diet, like the protein component, some of the, you can say, carbohydrate component, they get digested. Then when the digestion of the food is completed in the stomach, then the food is now not called as food, rather we call it as the chyme. So this stomach or the gastric glands, because they act on the food, they make the chyme and then this is sent to the small intestine. Clear?
Yes.
After that, there comes the liver. Now always remember that liver is the largest gland of our body. Okay, not just digestive. In general, however many glands are there in our body, liver is the largest gland. Now, where is it present? It is present beneath the diaphragm. Now, what is a diaphragm? For example, if this is the windpipe, it gets divided like this and it is surrounded by lungs like this. And underneath the lungs, there is a dome-shaped muscle and this is called as diaphragm. Now, this liver is situated near the diaphragm, okay, under the diaphragm. Clear? This is the position of the liver. Now, the secretion of the liver is called as the bile juice. Okay, now the liver, it has a duct through which it will be sending out the secretion and that duct is called as the bile duct. Now, one more thing is that the secretion of the liver is the bile juice. Liver synthesizes the bile juice, but it doesn't secrete it. What it does is that liver the enzyme, or you can say the juice from the liver, it is stored in the gallbladder. Okay. And whenever the particular bile juice has to be secreted, the gallbladder and the bile duct from the liver, they work together. Now, one of the biggest facts that you have to study or you have to know is that the bile juice, despite of being an enzyme, it has no digestive activity. None. No digestive activity at all. Then the question comes along, what does it do then? If it is not digesting anything, what is it doing in the digestive system? So to answer that question, remember, like the process that is done by the bile juice is called as emulsification of fat molecules. What is emulsification? For example, there are these bigger fat molecules. Then this big size fat molecule, it gets broken down into tiny, tiny, smaller size so that further it gets easier to digest it. So remember, the liver secretes the bile and the gallbladder stores the bile. Now, when the chyme reaches duodenum, what is duodenum? Duodenum is a part of small intestine. So even if you don't write this and you write small intestine, then also it's okay. So when the chyme, which is partially digested food, when it reaches the small intestine from the stomach, at that point of time, the liver starts to release its secretion, that is the bile juice. And what it does? It emulsifies the fat molecule. Emulsification, meaning that if there is this big fat molecule, after bile juice acts on it, it will be broken down into these many droplets or tiny sizes of the fat. Is it clear?
Yes.
Any doubts?
No.
Then comes the intestinal juices, but before that, pancreas. Now, pancreas, they are responsible for the release of pancreatic juice. Now, again, most of the components of our food, like proteins, carbohydrates, they get digested by the pancreatic juice. Okay, so this, where is it released? So this is also released in the small intestine. And the last gland that we have to study about is the intestinal gland. Now, intestinal glands are located in the intestinal lining, meaning towards the inner side of the intestine, and they're going to secrete intestinal juices and mucus. So we have all of these 4 glands that we have studied. Any doubts in any of the glands?
No.
You've understood liver and how it doesn't, it makes it, but the secretion property is done by the gallbladder. Why? Because the storage, the storage of the bile juice is done in the gallbladder. Now, yeah. Now let us see what are the various steps that happens during the Holozoic nutrition. Now, firstly, we know that the food, usually food that we eat, it is a balanced diet, right? It contains all the necessary, like you can say, organic molecules or all the necessary biomolecules that are important for our growth and everything like that. So when we talk about this, but one second, pen down. Yeah. So when we talk about the balanced diet, so balanced diet is the diet that would contain all sorts of components, like there will be carbohydrates in it, proteins in it, vitamins in it, fat molecules in it, all of that. And it is very necessary. Now, one more thing. What, for example, carbohydrate, right? Carbohydrate, they are called as energy giving, right?
Yes.
They are the energy giving food. Whereas the proteins, they are the bodybuilding, meaning they are responsible for the muscle mass and everything. So they are the bodybuilding food. Whereas when we talk about the fat, okay, so it is basically sort of like a supplement, and the vitamin and minerals are the protective food. Now, each of these biomolecules, like basically what's the concept? The food that we eat, It contains all the necessary biomolecules, and these biomolecules only have to be absorbed into our body. So it's not the food that we are actually concerned with, it's the stuff the food has. For example, they say that there is a lot of iron and a lot of good minerals and stuff in beetroot. So when we eat the beetroot and our digestive system absorbs the ions and the antioxidants and everything, that is what our body is concerned with. Even though we are only concerned with the taste and nothing else, but our body is concerned with the benefits, right? What all biomolecules are going to be obtained. So each of these biomolecules, they will be getting digested. And after the digestion is done, they will get absorbed and thereby give us the energy. So, talking about the steps of the holozoic nutrition, firstly, our mouth, which is also called as the buccal cavity. So, what happens is that it contains the teeth, there's the tongue, and everything in our mouth. As soon as we put food in our mouth, we start to chew it. Why do we chew it? We chew it in order to make it into smaller pieces so that it is easy for us to swallow down. Apart from that, you know that in our mouth there is the presence of tongue. Now the tongue that is present in the mouth, that is responsible for pushing the food down. They are responsible for wetting the food, right? And during the time when we are chewing, you might have noticed that whenever there is a food, like something you like near you, your mouth automatically starts watering. It's like ready to eat it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. So why? Because our mind tricks our salivary glands to think that, okay, yes, now you're ready to have it. You might have seen that whenever you are nervous, whenever you are tensed, or mostly during the examination time, or when something bad happens and something like that, right? When you are stressed and stuff, during that time, you don't feel like eating, isn't it? And at that
Yeah.
time, you also feel like your mouth is drying up. Why? Because at that time, your body understands that saliva is not needed anymore. The person is very stressed. He's not thinking of eating. So, salivary glands, they release the saliva whilst we are eating, which is very, very important for mixing the food so that, food could be made into a paste. And it is also responsible for the digestion of the carbohydrate content. So we know that saliva contains salivary amylase. So this salivary amylase, it is responsible for digesting 30% component of our carbohydrates that are there in the diet. Now, after we are done doing this, now you've chewed enough, the food is, it has turned into a paste-like structure. Then what we do? We swallow it. Now, when we swallow, we use our tongue. Why? Because the tongue pushes the food backwards so that it will be sent down. So the tongue pushes the chewed food for swallowing. Now you know that there are two pipelines present over here. One is the food pipe, one is the wind pipe. So sometimes have you felt that? Like when you're eating and you're talking and you're laughing, the food goes into the wrong pipe and then we start to feel like we can't breathe and we start choking, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why does that happen? It happens because some tiny food particle or something, it goes inside the windpipe by mistake. Okay, so that is something so not nice because a person can choke and not be able to breathe and die. So as a protective measure, our windpipe has a covering, sort of like a flap-like covering, which is called as epiglottis. This epiglottis will not let the food go into the windpipe, which is called as trachea. It will make the food enter the food pipe, that is the esophagus. Now, the question comes along that when we eat something, right, the food goes down our food pipe. You might have felt it in like Ramadan when when you break the fast, right? At that time, even if you drink water, you feel the water is going down, isn't it? We can feel it.
Yeah.
And even the
Yes.
food also, when you eat something, even a tiny bite, you feel that it is going down. Now, do you have like once
Going
you,
inside you.
yeah, Once you are done swallowing the food, do you have to do any work to make that food go down?
No.
Like, do you have to stay still so that gravity will do the work? Do you have to do that?
No, no,
No.
no.
So why? Because our esophagus, our food pipe, is capable more than enough to push the food further down. So what does it do? It does a movement called as peristalsis movement. So basically, when the food is inside, it will contract, it will relax, it will contract, it will relax, thereby pushing the food downwards. And now the food reaches the stomach, which is a J-shaped organ which is primarily responsible for the storage of food, and it also is helpful in the digestion. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now the wall of the stomach, it releases three things. These are the things that are released by the gastric gland. So the first is the pepsin. Now this is the enzyme. Now P for pepsin, P for protein. Okay. So what does it do? It basically digests the protein component of the food. So whatever protein component we have in our diet, the pepsin acts on it to digest. Now in our stomach, hydrochloric acid is present, which is one of the most strongest acid. Even if a one tiny drop falls on our skin, tiny drop as in size of a drop, tiny, you can say pin size, that tiny. Even if that falls on the skin, that area will be burned. It is that strong. So it is present in our stomach, and what is it responsible for? It is responsible for physically breaking the food particle. Because it is a very strong acid, so it creates an acidic movement in this, like this thing, acidic medium in the stomach, and then because of that acidic surrounding, the food particles, they get broken into tiny pieces so that it is easy to digest. Now the question comes along, if we have hydrochloric acid, such a strong acid in our stomach, then why is it not burning our stomach? So to answer this, mucus is present, right? Mucus is a sticky, watery layer which is present surrounding the walls of the stomach so that this particular hydrochloric acid doesn't act on that wall of the stomach. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now again, let's come to Ramadan. So when you're fasting, you might have felt that your stomach pains in a very different manner. It feels like it is hurling from the inside like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Why does that happen? Because when you've not eaten for a long period of time, your stomach hasn't gotten anything, then this hydrochloric acid, it starts acting on the stomach wall. That is why we feel that pain. Understood? It doesn't act in
Okay.
such a way that it will burn everything, but tiny, it acts like. Understood? So the three secretions of the gastric gland are clear.
Yes, ma'am. The hydrochloric acid which we use for chemicals and all is the same hydrochloric acid in our stomach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's just that ours is natural. It is present in our stomach, but it doesn't harm us because of the protective mucus there. But when we have, gone hungry for like a long while, in that case, the hydrochloric acid slowly starts acting on the wall of the stomach. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you note down till here, then we'll talk what happens later.
I'm done writing.
Why are you late today, Jia?
I had math tuition, ma'am. I'm done writing.
Are you also done?
No, ma'am, I'm just in the intestine glands.
Okay.
Done, ma'am. I'm done writing. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Both of you are done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm done writing, ma'am.
Done? Arfa, you're also done?
No, ma'am, this is the last line, the contractual
Oh,
relaxation. Done, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm done writing. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any doubts, students?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, so now once the food has been digested in the stomach, now the food that is partially digested, it's not actually completely digested. It is called as the partially digested food, which is called as the chyme. Now this chyme is further going to move into the small intestine. Now remember students, this is a very important thing that out of all the different parts that are there in the small intestine, sorry, out of all of the parts that are there in the alimentary canal, the small intestine is the longest part. It's not the largest, it's the longest part of the alimentary canal. And this is the site of complete digestion of food, meaning whatever components are there in the food, they are going to get digested then and there in the small. So remember that if anyone would ask you what is the small intestine, so you just simply say that it is the site of complete digestion of food. Meaning no matter whatever component is there, that is going to get digested in the small intestine. Now, even so, the small intestine is the longest part of the alimentary canal. The length of the small intestine varies from organism to organism. For example, if you think about herbivores and carnivores, what are herbivores? Herbivores?
The animals which eat
Who
the
eat plants?
plants.
Both of you are correct. Animals that eat plants only are the herbivores, whereas the animals that eat the other animals, they have a mixed diet, so we call them as the carnivores. So herbivores, since their diet consists of mainly of the plants, and you know that the plant cell wall is made up of what? What is the plant cell wall made up of?
Cellulose.
Cellular. Yeah. So now the cellulose component, it takes a little bit longer time to get digested because it is a very strong component. So that is why herbivores, they have a longer small intestine so that they can digest the cellulose present. Whereas the carnivores, since their diet is mostly meat and protein, so they do not require a very, very long intestine. So a shorter small intestine as compared to the herbivores. Now, the reason why small intestine is the complete, you can say, digestion site, it's because it receives the variety of the secretions of other digestive organs, like liver and pancreas, whatever is their secretion, they send it to the small intestine. Now, you know that in the stomach, there is hydrochloric acid, as a result of which the food coming from the stomach, it is acidic in nature because acid environment was there. Now, when it has to come into the small intestine, now the pH of the small intestine is not acidic. So, the food that is coming from the stomach, it has to be made basic, right? The opposite of acid is a base, right? So, it has to be made alkaline or basic, and that is done with the help of the pancreatic enzymes. And then the liver, being the largest gland, it releases bile juice. Always remember that bile juice has no enzymatic or no digestive activity. So what does it do? It just emulsifies the fat molecules, meaning it breaks down the bigger fat molecules into tiny, tiny, smaller droplets so that it is easier to digest the fat. This much is clear, students.
Yes, ma'am.
Any
Yes, ma'am.
doubts?
No, ma'am.
No.
So the pancreatic juice that comes from the pancreas, it has two enzymes, trypsin and lipase. Now the trypsin is responsible for the digestion of protein. So whichever protein component is there, they're going to get digested in the small intestine by trypsin. Whereas the lipase is responsible for the digestion of that emulsified fat. So those fat molecules that were emulsified because of the bile juice, Now they're going to get digested by the lipase. So, apart from all of these various secretions, the small intestine also receives the enzyme called as intestinal juice from the intestinal glands that are present in the lining. And ultimately, they convert the proteins into their simple form called as amino acid. They convert the complex carbohydrates into simple carbohydrates such as glucose molecule, and they convert the fat molecules into simpler molecules such as fatty acid and glycerol. Is it clear, students? So it's like bigger chunks being broken down into smaller chunks that are easy to absorb by our body. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? No doubts?
No.
All right. Very good.
Um,
So for today's class, we'll be keeping it till here only. And in the next class, hopefully, I will finish this nutrition part and we'll move on to the nutrition in plants. Okay, students?
Okay, ma'am.
All right, then I'll see you both in the next class.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
ma'am,
And Alpha, your voice
ma'am.
is not clear. Bye, Gia.
Ma'am, actually, I have a weekly test on
Hmm.
Saturday, so it means that all the four subjects, physics, chemistry, maths test will be conducted on that Saturday, right?
Like here at Learnivio,
Yeah.
I think it's part by part, but you ask the team once because I don't have a knowledge of it as such. But I think separate like subject tests would be done. So they would
So
specify
all,
whether it is a biology test or a physics test or a chemistry test.
okay, so it might be anyone among those four.
Hmm. But you like confirm